Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Conversations with Grandma Polly. This evening we want to welcome you again to season 5, a repeat of episode 9 because we were having technical difficulties last week. So if you guys missed it last week or you had a hard time watching it, we're back again tonight with Dr. Victor. Please remember to share conversation with Grandma Polly through Facebook and YouTube. Put a pin right there and we'll be right back. Did you know the Big Rig Kids host brilliant panels with our youth? We're also looking into new grant entrepreneurship programs to promote our after-school programs and reduce juvenile delinquency. Meet the Big Rig Kids stage play will start in Atlanta, Georgia next year, 2024, as we continue to promote literacy. We're still looking for cast. We have an audition the 25th of November at Metro Library in Atlanta. Now, if this is something you are interested in, you have children who are interested, grown folks who are interested, bring them out and let's make it happen. And while we're waiting, let's welcome Dr. Victor.
Hey, Grandma Polly, how are you?
I'm well. Welcome back, Dr. Victor. We had some problems last week, and we wanted to bring you back to make sure the people get the message. Kenny, do you have his intro?
Yes, I do.
Tonight's guest, Dr. Victor Paul Giangrasso, is a physical therapist, wellness practitioner, author, and artist. In Dr. Giangrasso's earlier career, he provided compassionate care to the geriatric population for 16 years in rehabilitation and skilled nursing facilities. Dr. Giangrasso's passion is now focused on reconnecting children and their parents in body, mind, and spirit. His belief is that a child empowered with a purposeful vision for their life is unstoppable. Dr. Giangrasso's purposeful vision is to help create an America where parents and children are empowered to believe that they can positively impact the world by first healing themselves. Learn more about Dr. Giangrasso's latest book, Awakening the Mystery of You and I, as well as his first book, Opaciphobia and Other Inner Reflections, at his website at victorpaul.com and r2emethod.com. That's VIKTORPAUL.com and the letter R, the number 2, the letter E, METHOD.com. You may also follow Dr. Giangrasso on his journey via social media. On Facebook at Victor Paul Giangrasso. That's VIKTORPAULGIANGRASSO. So without further ado, Conversations with Grandma Polly friends and followers, let's give a warm welcome for Dr. Victor Paul Giangrasso.
Welcome, 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 and we're so happy to have you back. I remember when I first met you, the information that you brought was just so powerful. And we've been blessed to have you travel, North Carolina and South Carolina with us. And it was very informative. I learned a lot from you, and I just appreciate you. Say hello to the people, and we'll get started with the questions.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming back. I know last week we had some technical difficulties, but I think the internet's going to cooperate this week. So thank you for having me back.
And we're glad to have you back. And we're going to dive right into the questions. And I know you have spoken to me about the four tragics. Could you explain to us what the four tragics are?
Sure. The tragic four are the rising rates of obesity in our country, the increased rates of suicidal ideation, children going to the hospital for mental health crisis, the rising rates of gun violence in schools since Columbine in 1999, and also the rising rates of developmental disabilities in our country.
And those four things have a huge impact on the things that we are dealing with today and a lot of the things that our children are facing. And I can't help but think that some of this is because of social media. And I want to ask you the question fundamentally, what is the internet?
Well, I mean, the internet really is just a space where people can share information via devices, electronic devices. And social media takes it to a different level where people can share videos, pictures, text messages, things like that. So it's designed to connect us.
Yes, and speaking of connection, when you say it was designed to connect us, I can't help but think there is also a disconnect that comes along with that. Because when we're spending so much time on our phones, our tablets, our computers, we're kind of losing the human touch where everything is done electronically. So, I mean, what are your opinions on the connecting and the disconnect?
Well, like I said, I believe the internet was designed initially to connect. It initially was designed for governments to connect, or the government to connect and give information. But and now it's grown to the point where everybody can have access to it. But the question really is it connecting specifically children? Because it's being used in so many ways that it takes children away and even adults away from, like you just said, Grandma Polly, the human experience, the human interaction, face to face interaction. I mean, what we're doing right now is a better step towards face to face interaction than texting or social media just sharing. But um, realistically, a lot of social media people are putting out only their best part, the best parts of themselves that they want to show, and children are not seeing the struggle that the other children are having as well as they are. So it's kind of it creates a disconnect from each other and children themselves.
I totally agree. When I look at social media, there are some positive things out there. We're not going to rip it apart because it has its pros. But in a lot of cases, people will sit down and look at it and be like, wow, that person's life is just so great. Why haven't I gotten to that point yet? Or that person, oh God, that's a beautiful picture. And I think sometimes it goes into a lot of what I see sometimes is what's the word that they use? Like a scenario with Lizzo. I'm not I'm not sure you're familiar with Lizzo or not, but Lizzo is this heavy set female who sings and dance and all of that stuff, and she's comfortable in her skin. And on the other side of it, you'll see a lot of people trying to self-image embarrass her, or self-image trying to shame her into something that she's not. And just using her as an example, a lot of times children and adults, because I call them bullies behind keyboards, they're bullied from behind a screen. When we were growing up during my time, okay, I'm finna age stamp myself. But during my time, you went to school and you had to deal with a bully or somebody who wasn't so nice or who wasn't pleasant. When you got on that school bus or you made that walk home, you was away from that person until the next day or over the weekend. But now there is no escape. So it goes into the next question: how can we, as responsible adults, guide our children towards beneficial use of the internet and social media?
Well, there are a bunch of things that can be done that adults can do to help their children use social media and the internet more wisely. And really, a lot of it comes down to the intention of the use. And is it taking the place of human connection, or is it enhancing human connection? Like, for example, what we're doing right now, I see this as an enhancement of human connection. We're talking about real things, we're addressing real problems, we're connecting on a real level. So this would be, I would consider, a healthy usage of social media and the internet. Whereas if our children are just using it as a distraction to get away from whatever they're dealing with, the struggles of growing up. As a child, you grow up, you go through adolescence, teenage years. It's a lot of difficulties, and I believe sometimes social media is kind of an escape, and they feel like they're connecting, they feel like they're a part of something, but it's not really bringing them to something in line with purpose and who they really are. And I think that's the real danger of it. So what can be done is a parent really should take an interest in what their child is viewing and not hovering and controlling, but just taking an interest to learn because there's so much information on the internet. And you just pay attention. What is my child gravitating towards? What's interesting about this conversation and what's interesting about this topic. You can learn a lot about your child just by paying attention and asking questions and observing and being curious about the child's interests. And that can create a real connection between the child, and also can help the adult bring that child more information about something they might want to learn about a future career or a hobby is something that can bring them real joy.
Yes, I can definitely relate to that. And I'm going to kind of act and come back from the other side of it. We see a lot today where these children are being handed these electronics and they're not being monitored. They're being used as babysitters as long as the child, was with that piece of equipment and they're quiet and they're not bothering me. Now I'm not paying attention to what's going on. I remember having a conversation with a grandmother, and she was sitting on the sofa with her child, with her grandchild 5 years old, playing. I won't say the name of the game, but just playing one of those games on that piece of equipment. And it just happened so that the grandmother looked down, and what she saw was disturbing because someone had hacked it, and you had two grown folks there committing a sex act. So like you said, get involved, know what your children are doing,
Right.
know what they're being entertained by. Because had she not been sitting there, she would not have known that this popped up on this child's piece of equipment.
Right.
And a lot of times, you allow them to go and shut up in their room or whatever reason, and they have this equipment. You think they're sleeping, and they're in there doing and talking to strangers in which they should not be, which leads, to the book that's being released right now. We just did some pre-orders on it, guys, and I thank y'all. And the full drop of it will come out December 1st, but it is just so much to the internet. It has its pros and its cons.
Right.
And can a child find purpose in a world, that's obsessed with likes, subscribers, and views? What's the benefit in that? Because if you don't get enough likes, then how does that make you feel about yourself? And if you're getting a lot of likes over here, what does that say also? So let's elaborate on that a little bit. The obsession, of having that need, that desire to have those things to tell me who I am.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, we all need some kind of validation in life. But I think the obsession with likes, subscribers, and uh, things like that just lead to a false sense of validation where it's not really like, oh, these people don't know you. These people that are liking your or commenting, they don't know you, and it could give a false sense of accomplishment. It could give you a sense of you're connecting with these people, and I think it's really dangerous because real connection does not come from a million subscribers. Real connection comes from genuine communication and contact with people that genuinely care or want to get to know you, or learning how to get to know you. And that is what it's about. And I believe we're missing that. And Harvard University did a study where they did a long study where they determined that the number one determinant of long-term wellness is human connection and community. And are we caught in a web of illusion that this social media is creating community? And if that's so, because if the tragic four is real, which it is, if you look at the CDC and you look at all the media reports and all these things are obesity and mental health crisis, it's showing that is this really a community? Social media is blown up. Kids are getting likes. Everyone's connected in new ways, but they're disconnected in fundamental ways.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And when I speak of social media, I'm not limiting it to telephones, iPads, and computer and all of that stuff. I feel like even the news media, you know, it all comes in together, the TV and everything else, because the things that we see, when we don't know ourselves, we allow those things to control us. The word I'm looking for is it influences our lives.
Influence, yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a big influence there on our lives. And when I hear it, just even from, because you get the news on the phone now, you get it on the computer, you get it on the iPad. It's just not limited to the TV. And for myself, I think when they start talking about these scandals, and prime example, the situation with Will when he slapped Chris.
Mm,
It wasn't just on the TV, but it was popping up on the phone, the computer, and everything else. And everybody had their own opinion about
yeah, right.
it. And to see some of the comments as, oh, he did the right thing, that was his wife, or on the other side, oh, he was totally out of line, this should have happened, this, that, or whatever. And reading all those comments, even if you didn't the other, and we know just about as much as these folks' business that we think we know. because it's
Right.
put out there on social media, but we're not living in their homes to know exactly what their life is.
Right.
And those things have an influence over us one way or another if we spend too much time on it.
Absolutely.
So, this is what I mean when I talk about the dangers of the internet because it's influencing us. You know, you have an overweight child that's been overweight all their lives, and then all you're putting in front of them is what society calls beautiful. That has to have some type of an effect on them if those qualities were not created in them as from a baby all the way up, you know? I think
Yeah.
it starts at home. We have to validate
Absolutely.
our children.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just had a conversation with my daughter about something like this just the other day. She was showing me her list for the holidays, and she wanted a lot of makeup and things like that. And I said, you know, Emma, I'm like, you're beautiful. You know, you want to wear some makeup, fine. You know, I get it. I'm not going to tell you not to wear makeup, but you know, take care of yourself. You know, stay in faith, stay focused on your purpose, get your exercise, eat right. You know, do the natural things, and you'll need less to make yourself feel beautiful because you will just know you're beautiful. You know, and I think that's so important to just foster a sense that you're beautiful as you are, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to improve your health, your appearance, your be successful in life and make money. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It's actually very important. But fundamentally, there needs to be a sense of love within first, and you're not going to get that from likes, subscribers, and all that kind of stuff. It has to come from within you. And absolutely, I think it starts in the home. The parents have a responsibility to almost embed that in their children. You know, what you tell them, as what you tell your child, they're going to believe it. When you keep telling them something, you tell them they're rotten, they're terrible, they're going to grow up believing it. You tell them they're beautiful and they're going to do amazing things, they're going to grow up to do amazing things.
I totally agree. And I really do believe it starts within the home. Because if we validate them at home, when they step out that door, regardless of what anybody else think of them, it's not going to matter
Right.
because they have it within them. And it's just in a lot of cases you're looking for it in the wrong places. You know, when you I was having this conversation, Victor, with Dr. Victor with someone the other day, and it came to mind. It was like, hey, have you ever watched any of the cleaning commercials on TV? And this is just one example. It's never a normal kitchen. It's never a normal bathroom. It's never a normal living area because when you go into the average homes, it doesn't look like what they're projecting out there on TV.
Right. Right.
And it's sending that false information to where, well, if I don't look this way, or if I don't live this way, or if I'm not in, you know, this, that, whatever, then I'm less than. But that's a false message that's being sent out because I would say 78% of America don't live in a big castle on a hill.
Right. Yeah.
And those are the things that they use to distract us. And then so many people go into a depression, especially with the holiday coming up. I'm glad you mentioned that earlier. With the holiday coming up, we need to cover that because so many people go into a depression. I battle depression every day, regardless of the smile you see. I'm a person who battles depression. And this is from way back when, you know. You learn to deal with it, you learn to grow through it, and you learn to excel. But with the holidays coming up, I think this is the biggest time, and correct me if I'm wrong, the most dangerous time of the year because so many people go into depression
Yeah.
because they don't have or they can't afford or they have this desire because all these ads and stuff are coming out telling you what you should have
Right.
instead of not realizing, hey, I don't need those things. But a lot of people go into depression during the holidays. What would be some of your suggestions to avoid that?
I think expectations are really important to have realistic expectations. A lot of what you said about having the smile on your face but dealing with depression, I can totally relate. I did that for many years of my life. I still struggle with some deep sadness, and having realistic expectations that the people around you in the media that are showing all these things they have and how happy they are, a lot of people are dealing with a mismatch between what they expect and then what they actually experience in the holidays. And I think that's what creates the depression in people, individual people, is that there's this expectation that the house is supposed to be a certain way, the gifts, you're supposed to have all these gifts, and everybody's supposed to get along. And I mean, whose family gets along? You know what I mean? Like, and when are all the gifts, everything perfect? I mean, just because you have everything doesn't mean even then you will be satisfied. There's some ancient wisdom from China that the content individual is the wealthy individual. And we live in a culture and a time where more and more and more is better, but we're experiencing so much depression, especially in our children, again, one of the tragic four, that we have so much financial and so much material uh, opportunity here, but yet our children are suffering tremendously. So that shows you the disparity. You can have so much opportunity, you can be surrounded by so much, but a lot of people that are very, very wealthy are very, very depressed. Financially wealthy, I mean.
I agree with you 100%. And see, for me, when it comes down to the holidays, it's just another day for me.
Right.
It's not all about the tinsels and the lights and all these other things that society has forced into our view. I remember, and what changed me from that, I could give you the exact year. It was actually 1990. Easter 1990. Because I grew up in a society where, for Easter, oh, you gotta have a new outfit to go to church. You're gonna say the Easter speech. You're gonna have the Easter baskets. Just all those things. Not knowing that my parents were struggling trying to make those things happen. Well, it was Easter 1990, and I'll never forget. And my depression has nothing to do with things, but at that time, I had the three girls, and I was content. Gonna cook dinner, and we just gonna enjoy the day. We're not gonna do anything. And someone called me and said, "You got the girls' Easter dress yet? You got the baskets, this that." And at that time, we were in a financial bind where we couldn't. We were going to either eat or do the extra stuff for Easter. So of course, we're going to eat. And it just put me in such a funk. I was in my bed all day crying because I did not get those girls' Easter outfits and Easter baskets. And when I was able to pull myself out of that, I was like, never again,
Mm,
because it's just a day.
right.
So I think a lot of it has to do with the environment and the upbringing also. This was a tradition that we did in our environment. And social media wasn't around then. But now we're going back to social media because what do people do? They post everything on social media. And some people get caught up into watching all of this stuff. Oh, they got the big Christmas tree. Look at all the presents that they got. I only got this over here. And going into a comparison type thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes, would you say those things leads people into depression?
I'd say the comparison of yourself to others is the road
Yes.
to deeper suffering. I really do. I believe a deeper emotional suffering, depression, um, fearing not being enough and not having enough, because there'll always be a want for more. I mean, that's just a human. Um, it's our human condition. There's always this want for more, but it never ends unless you decide to. Gratitude is huge. Gratitude is huge. To just
Yes.
be grateful for who you are and be grateful for the people in your life, and that's a nightly habit that my family and I practice every night before we go to bed. We go around and we share some things we're grateful for, so we can put the day to rest, put our minds to rest, knowing we're thankful. And my son will say things like, "I'm thankful for the breath I'm taking right now," and I'm
Right.
grateful. I sit When I look at him and I hear him say that, I'm like, all right, good. Like, he is focusing on the beauty of where he's at, and not on, I want this, I want that. Because again, we all want, but it's that disparity between um, what we have and what we think we should have that makes us depressed.
I totally agree. And that's why I gave you that example of that Easter, because once I was able to pull out of that, I learned gratitude. Here I am over here moping because someone wanted to know that I get the kids Easter stuff. And once I pulled out of that, I was like, wait a minute, husband's healthy, I'm healthy, my kids are healthy, we have a roof over our head, we have everything
Right.
that we need.
Right.
Why am I going through this? And I made a vow that day once I pulled out of it that I would never go there again because it's more damaging than it is helpful. But at this moment, we're going to take a break for the announcements and the giveaways, and we'll be back in a second.
We seem to be. Can you hear me, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um. Something is going on. The
Well,
music
I'll
isn't
make
coming.
them without the flyers tonight. Don't worry about it.
All right.
The
Let me
announcement that we have.
let me give the Patreon. Let's do that. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that beautiful message, Kenny. And the game question tonight is Dr. Victor talked about four things that our children are facing today. That's critical. Can you remember what he called it? It's two words and the number four. The first person to type that in the comment will get a signed copy of Dr. Victor's book. Now, while we're waiting for your answers, I want to say thank you again for those of you who pre-ordered my book already. Y'all will get, the cutoff date was yesterday for the free gift. All of those people who ordered the book will get a free book. I mean, a free gift along with the book. And I have a sample of the book and what it looks like. And guys, it looks great. I already approved it through the printer. They will be here next Friday after Thanksgiving. And I just appreciate you all for the support. And now we're going to get back to the show. Kenny, do we have a winner?
Not at this time, not yet.
Not at this time. Okay, y'all go ahead. We're gonna talk. Kenny's gonna monitor that board to see if anyone responds. Now, Dr. Victor, we talked about social media and the media and all that stuff, but there's this new thing now that's called artificial intelligence. Would you like to enlighten us a little bit on that?
Well, I mean, artificial intelligence in its most basic form is the capacity of a machine given by a human being to think, judge, make decisions, and ultimately become self-aware. And it's basically it's becoming this huge. It's been for a while, but there was $92 billion invested globally in AI in 2022. And
Wow.
yeah, and while there are benefits, I have some colleagues who very interested in the benefits of AI, and I can see just like social media and the internet, there are benefits. But I question $92 billion globally in last year, and I feel the appropriation of those funds could go so much further in so many other ways directly invested in children. But that's just one man's humble opinion.
I totally agree. I still have my feelings about it. Just following it through the media and some of the other things, and why it still has its pros. It comes with cons also, and the con side is scary for me. When I hear that they could record what 3 seconds of my voice and create a whole conversation or take an image of my face and turn it into whatever. And that's the con side for me. That's the scary side. And I just believe that it has its pros and its cons. And I noticed you said how much money they have invested in this thing. I agree. You said invest in our children, even our homeless. When I think about our homeless population,
Yeah.
because my Bay Grade Kid book series that touch on all of these things from homelessness to bullying to children to sickle cell. There is so many things and so many problems that we have yet to even touch the tip of solving. And now here we go with something else new added to that. And I just believe that some of that money could have went to help some of these people. And when I think of my homeless veterans, the majority of your homeless people are veterans,
Yeah.
you know. But that's just my opinion. But do you think AI is a wise investment?
I don't think long term in the survival. I mean, I'm going to take it to this level here. In the survival of human beings on this planet, I don't think AI is a wise investment. Um, I think we're creating technology again to think, to make decisions, and also to become self-aware. But why are we not educating children properly to think critically, make decisions, and be more self-aware? It seems it doesn't make sense to me at all that much money, time, energy, effort, focus is being dedicated to the development of technology that ultimately we're seeing it's already disconnecting our children from themselves and families from each other. So we're going to dump more money into it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
And I agree with you 100%. When I first heard of AI, and my niece and myself had this discussion, because I write my books and my niece does all the illustrations. Um, we're using our brain.
Right.
Creating these stories is from sitting down and writing and developing these stories, and the aspect where she sits down and she draws out the characters and all that stuff, and to have a machine that can create that for you in what, 30 seconds, I heard.
Yeah.
Where is the creativity of the mind?
Right.
You're telling me I don't have to think anymore.
Right.
You're telling me I don't have to use my brain. I could just put in a couple of keywords and hit a key, and voila, it's there. Our children are already behind on their reading lessons, on their reading level. They've taken cursive writing out of the schools.
Yeah.
So how are you going to sign a document? And at the same time, we may be teaching children the weight of technology, but we're not teaching children the valuable lesson of thinking, being able to solve problems. And I'm not talking mathematically. I'm talking arguments, disagreements. None of this stuff is teaching them to think. None of it is teaching them how to solve these problems, how to come together and say, okay, this is a problem. Let's work together and come up with a solution.
Right.
And that's really what my big kids are. So when I hear you talk, that's why I was so impressed with you, especially after reading your book. I was so impressed with you because we had to think. We had to go and look and dig up. So, in a sense, we say we're making it easier for them. But are we really?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I heard you say three statements that uh, really are critical for children, for people in general. You said
Yes.
we have to think. You can't exist in this world unless you learn how to think on your feet for yourself. You have to be able to work together. Now you got to be able to think and respect another person's opinion to work together to make decisions that make sense for people. And then ultimately that comes down to self-awareness. You have to be self-aware to be able to make decisions that make sense for you and those around you. So if we're creating technologies that are taking those things out of the equation, like let's just give the people the opportunity to just create something without having to think about it. Just I want to create this and then press a couple of buttons and then boom, there it is. But creativity is one of the highest, if not the highest part of being human. Being able to create something, drawing, painting, writing, music, mathematics, anything. And I feel AI takes us out of the equation, and it takes children out of the equation, and it scares me.
Um, you said a lot. And I respect that. I agree. When I look at our communities, there's two community, and I'm going to touch on both of them just for a little bit, just in our community alone per se. There is so much talented people in our community, but a lot of the resources that they need is not there. So that slows them down. And I could remember speaking with Donald Gilliard. He was a young man that I had on the show. spent 20 years in prison, and he came out and he reproduced the play God's Trombone. And he was telling me, he said that there is so much talent locked up in prison
Yeah.
that I believe that we could develop, and we could get through, and we had a lot of more resources and those things available to our children at a young age.
Mhm.
It would the prison population would not be so high.
Right. Yeah.
The graveyard population would not be so high with young people
Yeah.
because they have the talents, they just don't have the resources and the means in many cases. So I'm agreeing with you 100%. We need to invest in our children.
Right. And it's making me think of something. I studied a lot of Greek philosophy, so these things come to me, and they apply today more than ever. It's unbelievable. So his name was Pythagoras. You've probably heard of Pythagorean theorem. It's the triangles, the different sides, and they learn that in school, which is important. But he said something important, that this is really what it comes down to. It brings in what you said about the prison system, brings in the system about children. He said, educate the child, and you don't have to punish the adult. So it's like, it makes you question, well, what is education, and why are we not pouring more into proper education? If that's going to solve the prison system problem, and honestly, it keeps us out of wars. I mean, you name it. If you educate children properly to respect themselves, to respect each other, to be self-aware, to be know how to be in their bodies and know how to relate with each other, bullying goes down. I mean, you name it. You invest properly, but there's so much involved as to why that's not happening, and that's probably for another show.
Yes, and when we talk about what's up, there is so much involved. I really believe the bottom line is the dollar. It really is the dollar. The more people you
Yeah.
have in prison, the more money you're going to get for their prison bill. When we were driving trucks, and I was ignorant to the fact until I really experienced it, and now I know when I tell kids this. I could remember us delivering a load to this particular place. And I was driving and it was at night. And when I got there, I pulled up. There's a prison.
Mhm.
The guard is there with all the wire, and all of that stuff. And I'm looking at my paperwork and I'm saying, this is the address that's on here. So guard checked me in, had me pull around to the back. That particular bill of lading didn't list what the products was, so we didn't know until we opened the back door. Mattresses, the mattress filling.
Hmm.
A lot of these companies are using prisons to create their product. I've always heard it,
Mhm.
but had I not witnessed that,
Mhm.
I don't know if I would have still believed it. And then, speaking to Mr. Gilliard and a couple of other guys that I knew got out of prison, and they were saying so many people die in prison just for fighting over jobs. Some jobs
Right.
pay 50 cents an hour, some pay $1 an hour. And what they explain to me right now, telemarketing pays $2 an hour in prison. And you have people fighting for these jobs and you have people killing over these jobs. So now you got cheap labor, slave labor, because you're not going to get them to work out here for 50 cents an hour, $1 an
Mhm.
hour, 2 cents an hour. So let's contract it through the prison. So when we start educating our children, like you said, raise a child so that you don't have to treat the adult.
Right. Right.
And the education system, they're not putting a whole lot of money in these schools. the bare minimum to be exact, and some of the curriculums that they're offering. Oh my gracious! But okay, that's for another show, and that's just what it is. And I'm gonna go to your next question, Dr. Victor. Is the internet, social media, and AI facilitating the tragic four?
I believe so. Absolutely. The more, especially money we're pumping into AI, and the more distracted we are by social media, and the more the internet is not used for the intention of facilitating children to take care of themselves, to heal themselves, to love one another, to love themselves, the more we're creating basically an environment of increasing obesity, mental illness, developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and violence, gun violence. I mean, how could it not? How could it not? If the bottom line is the focus, if greed is come for your shareholders is the focus, then of course children are not going to get what they need because parents are chasing the dollar because they feel they need to make more. They need more. They need more. They're under the gun. They're running out of time. They need to make money. And then who's getting neglected? Who's getting put in front of the social media device and being left there because the parents are stressed out of their minds to cope with the rising cost of things. It's just it's out of control, and I really see it as a leadership issue in our country. I see it as a leadership issue.
And all those things above. And when you said, my mind went back to when I asked you about, was it just the track four. When we were growing up, it was a punishment not to be able to go outside.
Right.
We would run, ride bicycles, create toys out of whatever was out there. It was developing our skills. I can remember us making the little grass dolls out of the dishwashing liquid bottle and creating, just that creative mind. But now, today, you tell a child they have to go outside, they feel like that's punishment. It was punishment for us not to be able to go outside. So that alleviated the exercises. With all the store-bought shenanigans that we purchase now, we would take old things that our parents threw out and create toys and different. We were using that creative side, and all it was is we had to be in before the lights come on, the street lights come on. But the times have changed, and now the kids are couch potatoes.
Yeah.
Most, and I want to paint a broad brush, but for the majority of it, it's a couch potato. And I agree with you. And we have time for another question. One more question. What is human progress and how can America be truly productive?
You definitely saved the best question for last. So, I mean, human progress, I feel, is judged and has been for quite a while with technological advancement and economic growth, which technology in this age we need, and we need an economic system that works. We need money. But is it an adequate measure of progress? And if our productive aims are directed solely at creating more technology and generating more income, but our children are suffering by the tragic four, then is it progress? So, and is our
Ooh,
work productive? So I see productivity as the process of evolving physically and spiritually towards knowing how to take care of yourself truly and deeply in a sense of gratitude, in a sense of contentment. That going back to the Chinese philosophy of that's wealth. being content with what you have and being grateful and grateful for the people in your lives, and that breath, taking that one breath, and listening to children and giving children what they need. That's what human progress is. That's what keeps us alive on this planet. That's what sustains human beings on this planet.
Ooh, I hear everything that you say, and that is so true. But I think sometimes we get so confused about when we use that term giving children what they need.
Right.
That goes back to, I didn't have this when I was growing up, and I want kids to have more. And, I'm going to work two jobs to make sure that they have the things that I didn't when I was growing up. And I think the key thing there that's missing is time. Time is something we cannot get back. And now we're not spending that quality time with these children. All the other things to me don't matter.
Right. Yep. It's that presence with the
Yeah,
child. It's that and that curiosity and that compassion with the child, being attuned with the child. That's what
yes,
it's all.
yes. And that's one of the lines in my books. Dad, we need your presence, not your presence.
Right. Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
sometimes we become so confused with those things, and it's doing more harm than it does help at time. But Dr. Victor, this has been a great conversation, and I'm just ecstatic to have had you back to where we were able to get through it this time without the technical difficulties. And I'm going to take a minute to thank our sponsors, and then I'm going to come back and let you give your final word.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Victor. Would you like to make your final statement?
Sure. Being regulated in your body and your mind means you're able to be present, compassionate, and curious with yourself, children, each other, and on the micro level, the small level, it's an everyday, day-to-day interaction with parents and children in the home. On the big picture, it's adults taking responsibility at the government level, the education level, the healthcare level, and doing what's right again for children by being present, compassionate, and curious about what's real.
All right. And we thank you so much, Dr. Victor. I mean, Kenny, no one answered the question tonight. Let's see. I'm going to take a look before we sign off. No one, no one, no one. What about on YouTube? Because I don't see it on Facebook. We may have to look on YouTube to see. Okay, Joyce Waters says she remember one obesity, quality time. Did anybody answer on YouTube before we go out? Kenny, can you hear me? Victor, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I don't see anyone from YouTube. Can
Okay.
you hear me?
No. Well, I guess Ms. Joyce Waters This is the last show we got before Thanksgiving, and we won't be back on next Thursday, and we'll be back the Thursday after. Do y'all think we should give Miss Joyce Waters the books? I mean, the book. At least she answered one, and she made an attempt.
I
I
think
think
so.
so.
All right, Joyce, get your information to me. I'll get it to Dr. Victor, and he will mail your book to you. And I just want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. And once again, thank you, Ken, for this wonderful production. And Dr. Victor, I thank you for being here tonight because I could not have done the night without you here. And do you want to tell the people the answer to your question?
The word was the tragic four.
Right. And what are the fours? What are the fours, Dr.
Oh,
Victor?
the rising rates of obesity, ER visits for mental health crisis, developmental disabilities, and gun violence in schools, and all affecting children and communities.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And remember, guys, we won't be next week, but we will be back the following Thursday. And I just want to thank you all for joining. And at this moment, we will say peace out. And we love you guys.
Thank you so much, Grandma Polly. Thanks, Kenny.